I think Froch is talking out of his backside when it comes to that. Absolutely.
Okay, look at the body of work that he did. Andre Ward, Andre Durrell. You look at Jermaine Taylor. You look at Kessler.
Yeah.
You look at Lucien.
I'm not knocking his,
all of them.
I'm not knocking his legacy, but what I'm saying is Cole's.
That's a real legacy, by the way.
Cole's argument.
This is Talk Boxing with Simon Jordan and Spencer Oliver. It's episode 25, a quarter of a century. Don't forget to keep liking the videos and subscribing to the channel. But let's get on with this week's show. Spencer, have you ever seen that pop band, Joe Boxers, who used to do the song Boxer Beat?
No.
Have you never seen that?
No.
Because you look like you belong in it. They're doing the Boxer Beat. Look at the
It's
gear,
summer.
mate.
It's summer,
Gear.
Simon, and I've changed my tyre.
Difficult to take
due
you
to the
seriously
weather.
when you turn up like that.
I mean,
Bronski Beat, Joe Boxers. Look at me, properly attired. Anyway, you okay? Everything all right?
yeah, good. You?
Yeah, lots going on. Next week we've got a lot of things to be doing down in Bournemouth with
Yes.
big fights, World Championship fights. But going into this week's show, there is a really big set of fights coming up. Let's start with a fascinating encounter for a variety of reasons. Vasiliy Lomachenko against Devin Haney,
Yeah,
undisputed lightweight champion.
Incredible fight. I mean, incredible division. If I'm honest, it's probably the strongest division in boxing right now. You know, you've got Gervonta Davis, Ryan Garcia. I don't know if he's moving up now, but he's still in the mix. Shaka Stevenson, who could be the best of the lot. Yeah. Devin Haney, obviously, is brilliant. He is the undisputed champion. And Lomachenko, what a fighter he is. I mean, 35 years of age now. I think is he on the slide? Is he still capable of competing at this level? Remains to be seen. We'll find out on Saturday night, because Devin Haney is he's an incredible fighter. He's only 24, unbeaten, and
he's had almost twice as many fights as Lomachenko.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of the degrading, I suppose, for want of a better expression, of the Lomachenko myth, not so much myth because he's delivered, but ultimately the image of Lomachenko was the defeat to Teofimo Lopez, right?
Yeah.
And ultimately he attributes that to an injury before. He's gone on and won a number of fights since then. But when you start putting him in against a 24-year-old that's got all the toolkits, I mean, where do you see this fight going? Where do you see it being won and lost?
Well, that's the fascinating thing about this fight. You know, if you look at Lomachenko, he had 397 amateur fights, lost one. He boxed for a world title in his second fight, losing that one narrowly. Won the world title in his third fight. I mean, this is unheard of. That's why he's only had the amount of fights that he's had, because they're all world title fights.
Yeah.
He beat Gary Russell Jr., who's a brilliant fighter in his third fight, to win the world title, and went on. And the only loss that remained, the loss that he had to Teofimo Lopez was an injury. He had his shoulder operated on there. He's back to what he says is his best. And it's a fascinating fight. I mean, what he's got to do is he's got to get past Devin Haney's jab. Devin Haney's brilliant. He's got an excellent jab. He sets everything up for that. He's quite elusive as well, works the angles very well. But as we know with Lomachenko, he's brilliant on the inside, throws shots. He's got a wicked right hook, boxes out of the southpaw style, brilliant left uppercuts as well. It's a fascinating fight. It really is. I mean, you would probably go with Haney because he's got youth on his side and momentum. I think since that loss to Teofimo Lopez, he's won 3 fights, Lomachenko. Hasn't looked back to his best since then, and that's why I'm leaning towards Devin Haney.
Whereas Haney has looked good.
Absolutely, he's improving. I mean, them 2 wins against Kambosos over in Australia as well. You know, they were impressive, and he looks like he's improving all the time. Lomachenko, for me, is the finished article, but it's all about whether he's still at his best, and he'll have to be at his best to beat Devin Haney. If he is, we've got a real fight. But I just feel that the momentum's with Haney at the moment.
I mean, does it spell the end of one and not necessarily for the other? So, for example, if Lomachenko was to lose at 35 years of age, does that potentially bring the curtain down? Because it's unlikely to be the case for Devin Haney at 24. I mean, of course, the nature of if the defeat was of a very a physical nature in terms of it damaged the fighter, then that would be a situation that would take control of the outcomes of the future destinies of these fighters. But if Lomachenko was to lose, do you think that's the end of him at this particular level?
I don't think it'll be the end of him at this level, because it's this fight is like the top fight you can get in the division right now. There's still other fights to be had out there for Lomachenko. Yeah. But he is 35 years of age, and that is a big issue.
In a different weight class.
I think it's the manner that he gets. If he gets beaten, it's the manner in how he gets beaten determines whether you know, he still fits in with that because of the fighters that you know that are around at that time. If you look at Lomachenko's record, some of the Rigondeaux who he stopped, and Jorge Linares who he stopped, Luke Campbell he beat on points. You know, Anthony Crolla, remember him knocking Crolla out in 4 rounds. I mean, he's got a devastating right hook. I just think if he can get anywhere near that, we've got a great fight. I think it's going to be a great fight anyway. I really do, because I think Lomachenko has still got a lot in the tank. I think this is more about seeing where Devin Haney is right now, how good he is.
So where do you expect this fight? In which manner do you expect this fight to unfold?
I think it's going to be a close fight. I think, I think it's going to be a close fight, and I think it's about who establishes their jab first, who gets into a rhythm better. And I lean towards Devin Haney right now, just because I think the momentum's with him. I think he's the improving fighter, and I think that Lomachenko may be just going on the downside. And if that's the case, Haney wins the fight. So I lean towards Haney, but like I say, it's
points.
Points. Yeah.
A tight points decision.
This is going to be tight. Whatever way this goes, I think it's going to be tight. Yeah.
I mean, obviously, you look at this division and you see these two stellar names fighting one another. You know what's waiting in the rings. In the wings. You know that you've got potentially Shaka Stevenson. You know you've got Tank in the mix as well.
Yeah.
The debate about whether Ryan Garcia can legitimately claim to be at the top end of the tree after that performance he put up against Davis. I don't know what you think to that observation, whether Garcia gets in the conversation.
I think Garcia moves up in weight, if I'm totally honest. Right. I think that Garcia goes up to 140, so I think that we may lose him. But as it stands at the moment, he's still in the mix because, you know, of that defeat. Do
you think this division, given the names that I've just listed, is arguably the strongest division in boxing now?
I do, because you've got all these young fighters, unbeaten fighters that are coming through in this division, like, you know, names that we've just mentioned. And do you know what I like about this division? I think they're leading the way for all the other divisions, like the heavyweight division that's been embarrassing in recent times with these fights that we haven't got over the line for the undisputeds, etc. What the lightweights are doing right now is saying, listen, let the best fight the best. Like we had Ryan Garcia, Gervonta Davis boxing at a catchweight. It was only a pound above the lightweight division.
There's no belts on offer.
No belts on offer. But they were two of the best of this division.
Why do you think
Devin Haney, Lomachenko doing the same? I think that they're showing the way and saying, listen.
But why do you think? I mean, why do you think that the lightweight division is able to make these fights? Because these are relatively. I mean, they're big names. They're household names.
Absolutely.
They're not just boxing names. The people outside boxing that watch it on a casual basis will recognise all of these names and establish them in their minds as top class competitors. For the guys that are ardent boxing fans and the guys that are slightly more casual ones. Well, why do you think it's easier to make these fights with these guys have got egos as well.
Yeah.
These guys have got reputations as well.
Sure.
These guys have got ambitions as well. So why is it more easier, seemingly, to make these fights with these big names in these divisions than it is? We've even got guys, like we've just alluded to, with Tank and with Ryan Garcia that will fight one another with only pride on the line and reputation. Why is it easier for the lightweights to make fights than it is for the heavyweights?
It shouldn't be, and I really don't know why it is. You know, like it's as simple as that. I really
is it
don't
financial?
know. Like, I mean,
do you think it's financial scale? I mean, these guys aren't getting paid, are they? The same way they're getting money, but
they're getting big money. But I mean, the heavyweights you're talking about off the scale. The problem, I think, the difference is we saw Devin Haney actually over in Saudi. He was talking about speaking to Prince Khalid about fights that they were hoping to get over there, to materialise over there in that division. So that, you know, that will obviously offer more money if that does happen. But where it is right now, where we've had these fights in Saudi, and the Saudis have paid that much money, the heavyweights are thinking, well, hold on a minute, I don't want to box for 5 million. I'm worth 20 million or 30. Whereas the lightweights at the moment, they're commanding good money, but we're getting the best fighting the best, and that's probably why they're getting the money that they're getting. You know, if you look at the box office numbers, that Gervonta Davis versus Ryan Garcia got, they were smashing it.
A lot of that is obviously because of Ryan Garcia's positioning in the social media world as well, isn't he? I mean, he is somebody that carries a large degree of particular interest and reputation that's not ultimately been backed up quite by deeds yet, but he brings a unique digital dynamic to the equation, doesn't he?
Sure.
A bit like some of these village idiots in the space that you love, which is the influencers, and we'll get onto that ghastly sideshow in a minute.
Love's a bit of a strong word there, by the way.
Profits from, then, shall we say? Gains from. How do you see the landscape of the lightweight division planning out this season? This year we've seen the notion that Shaka Stevenson's in the wings.
Yes.
We've obviously got Tank Davis that's there, and everyone's looking at as the sort of not so much the golden goose, but
the face of boxing
the
at
Mecca
the moment. Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
I mean, how do you see this lightweight division playing out over the next year, maybe a year and a half?
I think with these guys that are getting it on at the moment, they want to see the best boxing, the best. Like even George Kambosos, you know, he won that undisputed title. He won that off Teofimo Lopez. He won the title, and straight away he went. You know, he put it straight on the line with Devin Haney. You just go respect for that, because you could have took an easier option. Took Devin Haney. So I think they're just showing that, you know, the best fighting the best is the way forward with it, and I think that we're going to get that with these lightweights now. I think they all want to be, you know, they all want to be in the mix. Shakur Stevenson, by the way, I think could be the best of the lot. I think he could be the one that emerges as the number one. Yeah.
What, above Davis?
Above Davis, above Haney.
That's a call.
I know. To see how it plays out. Above Davis, above Haney, you know, above Lopez, above them all, really. You know. Yes, it's interesting. It's interesting.
And you say you don't get to speak on these shows, and then when you're given an opportunity, you make these outlandish claims.
I've sort of put your foot down today, Spence. Stop being bullied. Yes, don't let Jordan bully you. Do what you got to do. I've had a good word with our producer Pat, and he said, "No, Spence, stand
when he's here." Yeah, when he's here. That'd be a difficult word to get in when he's here. Look, I mean, I think it's a fascinating division. I think it's a fascinating fight.
Who do you think's the best of the lot, by the way?
I think I find it difficult to look much past Davis because of the body of work that he's done. I mean, Shakur Stevenson, I think, is an outstanding fighter.
Yeah.
And I think Devin Haney is just alongside these three guys, and I think it would be a style that makes a fight. I don't know. I can't see past Davis. I think that given the nature of how he believes in himself and the outcomes that he's able to deliver, I just think that he will beat all of them.
Yeah, but they've all got that. They've all got that mindset. That's why. Listen, when you get eras, when you get fighters of the same era, you get 4 or 5 of them. You know, when you go back to the middleweights, when you had Hagler, Hearns, Duran, and all that. When you get those Leonard, when you get them eras, then that creates superstars, and that's what we've got with these young men. They're not afraid to put their O's on the line. And I think this is a learning point for all the other weight divisions to say, listen, don't be scared to lose your O. It's not about that. It's all about creating legacy. And you can only do that by boxing the best. Because
there is this stigma, isn't it? The moment if you lose a fight, then ultimately you're categorised in a different way.
Yeah.
I heard Paulie Malignaggi talking about the nature of, you know, people losing fights and then being recategorised. Just because you lost an individual fight that maybe the style wasn't right for you doesn't necessarily diminish you overall that you can't go back on and do precisely what you started doing in the first place.
You know, like the heavyweight division, when you go back with the Muhammad Ali days, when you had all those great
and they
fighters,
lost.
Larry Holmes. But if you talk about that today, we're talking about legacies. You talk about that, all those fighters that we're talking about, Muhammad Ali, you know, Joe Frazier, Ken Norton,
and they've all got losses.
They've all got legacies, and no one really remembers who beat who, but they all mixed it, and that's what created the legacy.
Absolutely,
that's what we need to see today. That's what we're not getting with our heavyweights.
I mean, I think probably to answer our own question is, the reasons why those fights happened so frequently in the 70s was because Ali was such a draw, and the economics around it made it sensible for everyone to fight one another. And we're now at a stage where the lightweight division fights in such a way because there's a certain scale of money, but it's not a scale of money that stops people from fighting or makes them a little bit more prima donna-ish.
Sure.
But the bottom line is that there is lessons to be learnt here, but we all know that everything falls off the heavyweight tree.
Sure.
As much as we bitch and whine about the fact that these fights don't get made, it is still the heavyweight division that sets the sort of blueprint for how financial structures are put in place, what fights are sold, how they're made around the world, and it's still the heavyweight division that, unfortunately, albeit the most inactive one, that creates the dynamic, doesn't it? And creates the wealth, the ecosystem. It would be remiss of us not to mention and to discuss Katie Taylor and her homecoming fight with Chantelle Cameron.
Yeah.
Undisputed lightweight.
Love it. You know, I think it's a great fight. Undisputed super lightweight title. So on the line, Katie Taylor's moving up in weight. She's the undisputed lightweight champion. 2 unbeaten fighters getting it on head-to-head. The atmosphere over there in Dublin is going to be insane. And that may be enough just to pull Katie Taylor through. But this is not a foregone conclusion.
That's what I wanted to ask you, because everyone hears Katie Taylor in a sentence and leaps to the conclusion, right?
No.
Is there a potential danger that people are overlooking Chantelle?
Chantelle Cameron is a workhorse. She's a grafter. She just doesn't stop from the first bell to the last bell, and she's physically very strong, and that's what could come into play. This weight difference could be the difference in this one, because Chantelle Cameron's going to go out there and she will take the fight straight to Katie Taylor. Katie Taylor has got excellent boxing skills. She's got excellent ring craft. She knows how to move. But her downfall is that she gets drawn into a fight because she loves a fight. It's not a downfall because it's a plus for her as well.
I've seen her.
And that's ultimately what will happen because Chantelle Cameron will go out there from the opening bell, take it to her, and they will lock horns. This fight has the makings of probably being... This could be one of the best women's fights of all time. It really could. I think up till now, I think that if Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano, for me, is the best women's fight I've ever seen. That was in, back in 22 at Madison Square Garden.
Yep.
This fight has all the ingredients to be up there as good as that fight.
Saying the point that I've just made, that is a danger of looking past Chantelle, where do you land on this fight? Who do you expect to win? You've made a case for Chantelle to be properly considered in this equation. The assets that she has that will cause Katie some challenges.
Yeah.
But do you still not see past Katie Taylor and the nature of the beast?
I see Katie Taylor, and I think that home advantage is huge in this one.
Yeah.
And I think that will bring the best out in Katie Taylor because she has to be at her best. She has to put in a career best performance, if I'm honest, against Chantelle Cameron. And I lean towards Katie Taylor for that reason and that reason only. I think that it's a winnable fight for Chantelle. I think that she goes out there and size and strength could play its part in a tough contest, and she could win it that way. But I just think that Katie Taylor will find a way. I think that she's the pioneer of women's boxing, and I think that she's going to put in a performance, a homecoming that she's been waiting for a long time, and I think that will bring the best out in her.
All right, moving on from things of substance to things of no substance whatsoever. I find myself being dragged, kicking and screaming reluctantly. I'd rather sort of strangle myself with my own tongue than talk about this. But the debacle, the junk fest that is the Misfits and the event on the weekends. I mean, the first case in point, and as much as I find myself trying to attract any seriousness to this, is this bloody thing got 300,000 pay-per-view buys.
Yeah, sure.
And no, I listen to people like Joe Kazagi sitting there saying, "What the hell's going on here?
Yeah.
How are these guys getting more precedence, more promotion, more revenue, more opportunities than professional bona fide fighters?" But that is a phenomenon, I suppose, of the digital age and what people want to watch.
The audience they've got following them, they've got a huge audience. We know KSI like 50 million Instagram followers, YouTube followers, etc., and they're committed. I mean, I think it's
preposterous rubbish.
Their demographic is very young, and I've got to say, Simon, right? So I said, look, I've not got a problem with this. I think that it's entertainment. Boxing's on the under. No, but what I'm going to say, hold on a minute, hold on, let me speak.
Are you on the turn?
You're raging now. No, I'm not on the turn. But I think that they went a step too far with this whole event. The weigh-in, the fights that were breaking out on the night of the fight. The aggression that everybody was showing, that all the fighters and everything else, not giving off the right impression because the demographic of their audience is like I say, like 14 years of age, between 14 and 16. When I spoke to KSI about why he was doing this, he said he wanted to inspire the younger generation. He's got a younger audience. Yeah. He wanted to, get kids off the streets into boxing gyms, show them boxing gyms, teach them the life skills that they need, get away from knife crime, gun crime. Well, his behaviour through that didn't really give off the right impression. So I said, listen, that's like double standards what you're doing there.
Yeah, but that's a slightly unfair analysis because we can talk about Richard Riakporhe being a committed individual towards night crime, and it wouldn't be a glowing endorsement of him having a roll around in a cinema.
But what I'm saying is the aggression that was shown. I say, listen, let's do it in the right manner. I get there's a fine line between going over the top and entertainment. I enjoyed the first one, KSI, when he boxed, was it Swarms and whoever else?
Don't ask me because I wouldn't watch it.
Yeah, so I enjoyed that because the crowd loved it, carnival atmosphere, young, like all the kids with their dads and whatever. We had a lot of kids with their dads here this time. We see a lot of fights breaking out in the crowds and etc. The audience has started to change a little bit, maybe slightly older, and yeah, I didn't enjoy it as much. I think they need to draw it back. I still think there's a market there for them. I think that I still think that what KSI is trying to achieve is right. I understand what he's trying to do, and I get that. Being like getting kids off the streets, because the kids will watch him and they'll go into boxing gyms. Some of them actually will become boxers, but whether they do or they don't, boxing gyms teach kids the life skills that they need in life.
Yeah, they give them discipline and character and resilience and fortitude. I get all that. If I'm going to be forced into doing this, subject matter, let's feign real interest in it. So we will. The fight itself.
Yes.
knockout? Yes or no?
No contest.
Do you think it was an elbow?
No contest.
Should it have been ruled a no contest?
No
or
contest.
Disqualification?
Simple. What happened was KSI he had Joe Fournier where he wanted him, landed a good right hand. Joe Fournier stiffened up a little bit. They got tied up. Fournier tied up on the inside. KSI pushed him off. As he pushed him off, whether he was saying he was throwing the hook and he followed through the elbow. We've seen that with Mike Tyson, done that numerous times.
Well, we saw that.
It was it seemed a little bit blatant. And I think that he's got his argument that he was throwing the shot and it just went through and he was overhyped and he was trying to push him up. He's got his argument, but I think that it should be ruled a no contest. Disqualification, no. But I think that maybe they should just put it down to a no contest, draw the line under it, and maybe go again.
Yeah, I would say maybe no interest rather than no contest. But that's perhaps a different discussion. When we look at this, and it's a commercial opportunity, and people like Kali Sauerland will see the opportunity there and not necessarily realise that perhaps in some ways it compromises the integrity of the bigger picture, which is the real boxing space.
Yeah.
And it's allowing people an opportunity to trade off the endeavours of real boxers.
Yeah.
But governance-wise, it's being licensed in Malta, fought on British shores.
Yeah.
We've discussed with Robert Smith from the Boxing Board of Boxing Board of Control, that there is certain parameters around which fights can manifest themselves in these shores and which they can't.
Yeah.
Do you think that there's a need? Because there's a part of me that doesn't want there to be a need for the British Boxing Board of Control to be involved, because if they're involved, it almost gives this more credence than I think it's entitled to. But the flip side of the argument is if you're getting people fighting and you're getting events that are staged at environments that are housing significant audiences and people are watching this product, where's the governance on this? Where's the control over the way that the fights are being put on, the way that the fights are being marshalled and controlled, the auditorium participation and all of that stuff?
I'm glad you asked me that because I think that they need to. Yeah. I think that I think that they need to be more stringent on who they let compete in the ring. I mean, did you see the two guys? The two fat guys, I'm going to call them fat because that's what they were. So they were 400 pounds.
Overweight?
No, they were obesely overweight. Okay. Right, they got in there, they were 400 pounds. It was the heaviest fight of all time, I believe. But what I'm saying is, they didn't know a left hook from a fish hook. None of them could fight. They clearly hadn't put them in they clearly hadn't done any sort of training. My point is, this is the hurt business where people do get injured, you know, and I don't think that people should be allowed to get in the ring if they've got they had no defence. They didn't. It was just. It was a bit of a freak show, if I'm honest.
So what are you? So what are you saying? Are you saying?
I'm saying the standards have to be better.
Fascinating insight that there should be.
There should be some sort of standard. At the moment, for me, it seems like misfits boxing.
By
doesn't matter if you've got a big following. I mean, they'd even let you box. Could you imagine that?
Oh, that stylistic would be great. Elegance and
Sugar
wit.
Ray Jordan.
Or do a crossword in one corner.
Sugar Ray Jordan.
Hit him with a pencil. Yeah. So are you saying that you think that there should be the British Boxing Board of Control getting involved and saying, if we're going to do this freak show, valued event, then we need to have some proper governance, control and disciplines and standards and so on and so forth?
100%. I mean, look, the Boxing Board of Control, I've known good fighters to go back to try and re-get their licences. Some fighters that can't even get their licences because they're not considered good enough. The British Boxing Board of Control is quite stringent when it comes to that, you know, allowing, you know, fighters to box, etc., etc. There is no standards on this misfits, and that's what needs to be improved because someone's going to get hurt otherwise.
There's just money opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And interesting, I mean, we do this as a staple diet, and it feels like it's over-egging the pudding sometimes. But you can't help but do it because it's a constant subject matter around Anthony Joshua and what goes on with him. And Carl Froch was speaking about Anthony this week and about the prospect and the eventuality, I suspect, if it's going to manifest itself the way we think it's going to be, which is that Anthony Joshua fights Deontay Wilder.
Yeah.
And Carl made some very strident comments, didn't he? I don't know whether he was doing it from a tongue-in-cheek position or whether he was doing it because he really believes it. I think he probably really believes it. But he talked about Deontay Wilder knocking Anthony Joshua out in round one.
Yeah.
And also, he talks about not really having much of a legacy.
Yeah.
I mean, given that you are often neck deep in Anthony Joshua's backside, I
think Carl Froch is talking out of his backside
when
it comes to that. Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Do you want me to give you reasons?
Well, no, I want everyone to guess. Do you think that he's, first of all, tick him off?
Right.
Do you think that Kyle is in any shape or form right about the fact that Deontay Wilder knocks him out?
No.
Why not?
Well, no, he could be right because Wilder's a phenomenal puncher, and it could happen, and it could happen in the first round because Anthony Joshua's got to go and engage and throw the shots as well. But what I'm saying is, equally, I think Anthony Joshua could knock out Deontay Wilder in a round.
Okay.
I believe that.
Yeah, once upon a time. But Shane McGuigan's McGuigan's also had some conversations about that, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Where he's talked about the fact that physically Anthony Joshua is in the exact same space as he's always been.
Absolutely.
But mentally he's not. And that means that in order to be able to beat fighters like Deontay Wilder, he's got to do what he did before.
Yeah.
And we still sit here in the same position as we've sat for some time with Anthony Joshua, and maybe since the Klitschko fight, that there's an element of Anthony that's gun shy.
Yes. Yeah, well, I don't... Gun shy might be a bit of a strong word. I think that he's lacking the confidence in his own ability right now. And I think that he needs to... Jermaine Franklin was a good way to start getting that confidence back because he's back on a winning streak. I think he needs to fight Dillian Whyte, which I believe happens in August, and I think we see that. And that will prepare him. A good win against Dillian Whyte prepares him for Deontay Wilder. If he comes through Dillian Whyte and Dillian Whyte in style, I believe that he'll be in the headspace to beat Deontay Wilder. Right now, maybe not. One more fight, and then that's why when we first talked about this and said Anthony Joshua wasn't fighting in the summer, he was going to go straight in that tournament, that worried me. I said, well,
but it's funny because I think we both think Shane McGuigan's a pretty good trainer, right?
Absolutely.
But he's on the other side of the argument. He doesn't think that Joshua needs another fight.
He
thinks
does.
he goes in with Deontay Wilder or whoever in this huge event that we're speculating about in December in Saudi, and does the job that he needs to do or doesn't, as the case may be.
Yeah.
But I think, and you think, and conventional wisdom must think that the performance against Jermaine Franklin told us very little.
Well, told us that he needed another fight.
And told us that he needs to... Because we're talking about him raising up to a level, albeit we've made a case before that Deontay Wilder is probably the most technically inept heavyweight champion besides Charles Martin and paper champions like that.
Well, I don't know if Charles Martin was even technically better than Deontay Wilder. You've got to look at what Deontay Wilder's
I'm saying he was worse.
I mean...
Since
Charles Martin was worse than what Deontay, as in technically.
Yeah. You think he wasn't?
No, I don't think he was technically.
Okay.
No, if I'm honest, like Deontay Wilder, technically, you see some of it. You look at the replay of some of them things. He's just a phenomenal puncher, explosive, and he's got huge balls. That's what you need as a heavyweight. You know, like even after those losses to Tyson Fury, the guy doesn't mind. He'll roll the dice. He'll go in there and he's dangerous. He's explosive. The speed that where he closes the space with his feet is what creates the power in his punches. And he's a dangerous guy. Whoever boxes him, he's always going to be dangerous. I just think that Anthony Joshua comes through that fight with Dillian Whyte and he'll be in the right headspace going into that, and that makes that a real contest.
Well, before I go on, I'm going to go back and analyse what Carl said with you to see why you think Carl's saying it. But let's just alight upon the fact that if he's fighting Dillian Whyte next, which gets Dillian what he wants, which is a nice paycheck, and everybody gets an opportunity to see if Dillian Whyte can catapult himself beyond Joshua into that framework that he thinks he should be with 8 fighters or however many he thinks should be in Saudi on one particular evening. How do you see that fight? If we're going to go on and suggest that he could get knocked out in one round along the Carl Froch analogy, which you don't agree with, how do you think the fight with Dillian Whyte plays out? We've seen the first version of it. And we know that in that fight that a slightly more conditioned Dillian Whyte might have done more damage to Anthony Joshua in that fight. How do you see this version of a rehash? Because it seems to me that the heavyweight division can't do anything but rehash fights we've already seen before. We can see Tyson Fury versus Derek Chisora, or we can see Dillian Whyte versus Dillian Whyte versus Derek Chisora, and now we're seeing Anthony Joshua versus Dillian Whyte. How do you see the Whytes Joshua fight if it makes?
I think where they're both positioned right now, I fancy Joshua to win that fight. I fancy him to come through that fight. I don't think that Dillian's looked himself in recent times. In style. Stylistically, Dillian Whyte's always going to give Joshua a problem.
I mean in style. I mean with mean with a statement.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think if Joshua wins that fight, he wins it by KO. And I think that, you know, I believe that Joshua beats Dillian Whyte. I do. And I think that if he does, and he does it in style, I think
he dispels some of the concerns.
Well,
people will then say
it puts him in good headspace.
But whatever, to be fair to Anthony,
I think it's wrong this time, and that people are writing him off the way they have, though, like totally writing him off. And by the way, Cole Froch, this is the comment I want to make about Cole Froch when he's saying Joshua has no legacy and whatever. And you go, come on, Cole. You've got to look at what he's achieved, mate.
Yes, but I want to get into that in a second. Let's get some order into this conversation.
Good,
I want to get back to the conversation, the observation that Carl's made about Wilder beating Joshua in one round.
Yes.
Right. Where's that coming from? Is Carl trying to be deliberately disrespectful to gain and garner attention to his podcast, or is he saying it because I have a propensity to listen to him because I think the body of work that Carl Froch did do in his career eclipses the bulk of most fighters with the fights that he had, right? So he gets to talk from a certain position.
Yeah.
Right? But where's he coming from with this idea that Wilder knocks out Joshua in one round?
I think he's looking at just recent performances and Joshua's lack of ability to believe in his own confidence, and I think that's where it comes from. That Deontay Wilder is a guy. If you go in there and you're half committed on anything, you're getting sparked. Yeah. And as we know, Deontay Wilder is a very fast starter. And that's where Cole's henching his bets. He goes, Deontay Wilder comes out fast, Joshua comes out a little bit tentative, and boom, he gets caught. Because if he does catch Joshua, he knocks him out. The reality is, he could knock Joshua out in a round. But my belief is that Joshua,
And are you in the camp that Joshua beats Wilder?
I think that I want to see his next performance. Yeah. Right now, I'm not in that camp because right now, I'm very sceptical because of the performance. Because of the performance because of the performance against Franklin. But I think that when he gets that other fight, which is what he needs,
he'll raise his level.
I do.
Okay. Yeah. Until he gets one in the face, and it reminds him of the dark places he's been before that he doesn't want to go again. But we'll see. Moving on to the other part.
You had to get that beat, did you?
Yeah. Well, there we go. Sorry, Michael. We've got another part of the observation that Carl made, which is actually just as condemnatory in certain ways. He says AJ's past his best and on the slide. I don't think it's an unfair analysis, to be honest with you. He's had a fantastic career financially, but maybe it niggles him that he's probably got no real legacy. He's not going to go down as an all-time great. Now, is that unfair? Because I'll tell you why I think it's not. Because I think there's a school of thought that says Lennox Lewis doesn't go down as an all-time great.
Yeah. Okay.
And doesn't get the credit and recognition that he should have got for his achievements.
Yeah.
So why would Anthony Joshua, who doesn't have the body of work, I don't care what Eddie Hearn says.
I think Lennox does go down as an all-time great.
I think so too, but it's certain parts of the sport that don't ever list him in a conversation when they say Tyson, Foreman, Frazier, Ali.
I'll tell you what, I'm going to disagree with a Cobra, shall I?
Go on.
Joshua won the British and Commonwealth title fight in his 15th fight against Dillian Whyte, yeah?
Yeah.
Comes through. The 16th fight, he beats Charles Martin. Admit he was not a good... He won the IBF heavyweight title. Admit, but you can only beat what's put in front of you. He was a world heavyweight champion. Joshua becomes world champion after his 16th fight.
He
then loses in 2019 to Andy Ruiz, gets knocked out. Goes to box Ruiz again in the immediate rematch, beats Ruiz on points, so he becomes a two-time world heavyweight champion. And you can't judge a guy on his legacy when he's not even finished. He may become a freeweight world champion. Then what does he do? Does the Cobra then swallow his words? Does he eat his words? I mean, you can't say he's not going to go down as an all-time great because the kid's still boxing. He's still,
Well, yes. I mean, I think where he's going with this, if I may be so bold as to think to work out where his thinking is that he's making a case where he gets locked. If he's just made the case, right, that he gets knocked out by Deontay Wilder, then his legacy will have been to have beaten certain fighters, to have lost to certain fighters. Let's have it right.
Yeah.
With all due respect to Anthony Joshua, you are not going to give me any backdrop to say in 10 years' time anyone's going to remember Andy Ruiz. They'll remember Ali fighting Kenny Norton, and they'll remember Joe Frazier, and they'll remember those guys.
Absolutely.
And they'll remember Lennox Lewis fighting some of the people that he fought and came back from. But I'm not entirely sure that they're going to remember the fact that Andy Ruiz, the Pillsbury Doughboy,
they won't remember
was somebody
him at all.
that he went back and won a title from that he should never have lost to in the first place.
They won't remember him. They won't remember Charles Martin. But what they will remember is they'll remember Deontay Wilder. They'll remember Tyson Fury. They'll remember Alexander Usyk. The legacy's still got to go.
And there it is, right? Because the legacy is dependent upon the fact that he fights these guys.
100%.
And if he fights these guys, right, and he gets beat by them,
then
where's the legacy?
Well, listen,
the legacy. I tell you what
the legacy is not there. Then,
well, the legacy is. Which is what Carl's point is. The legacy is this: in a high tide, all boats rise.
Yep.
So his legacy is that Anthony Joshua raised the financial landscape.
Yep.
Took Carl's miserable 80,000 record at Wembley and turned it into 94,000, and increased the level of interest, awareness, and financial remuneration that everyone else got. Tony Bellew, in a different podcast with me, talked about the notion of how important Anthony Joshua was for everybody like him.
Yeah.
Isn't that really Anthony's legacy, rather than if he loses to Wilder, loses to Fury if he ever fights him, then what you're saying is you beat Vladimir Klitschko when he was 40 odd years of age. You won a world title against Charles Martin, who's done virtually nothing since. Right? You lost to Eric Butterbean's cousin, Andy Ruiz, and then got it back when he could barely get in through the ring door. Or through the auditorium door. You got to call it for what it is.
Right, so
surely that's a legacy that is questionable.
Yeah, absolutely.
So he's right then, isn't he?
No, he's not. He's totally wrong.
He's right in the moment until he beats Wilder or Fury.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. You can't judge someo's legacy
he lost to Usyk
when it's not done. So what I'm saying is his legacy will be like bringing big time boxing back to
we give that
stadiums.
To who wants that legacy?
Winning Olympic gold medals, being a 2-time world champion. His legacy is determined.
But what Carl's attacking is the billing of Anthony Joshua.
Yeah,
the expectation of Anthony Joshua, the levels that people put Anthony Joshua on. He's saying, and I suspect it's probably equatable to his experiences, because look at the body of work that he did. Andre Ward, Andre Durrell. You look at Jermaine Taylor. You look at Kessler. You look at Lucien. I'm not knocking his, all of them.
I'm not knocking his legacy, but what I'm saying is Cole's argument is if he loses to Deontay Wilder, what if he beats Deontay Wilder? If he loses to Tyson Fury, what if he beats Fury?
And that fight.
What I'm saying is that's determined.
And then he'll have to refute. Then we'll dispute, and he'll refute, won't he?
Absolutely.
Right? But on the current trajectory. You think if Anthony Joshua goes against Dillian White, scrapes past against what I think is not the same Dillian White that maybe he fought or has fought previously, right? And Dillian White's on the slide as well. If he scrapes past Dillian White and ends up losing to Wilder because there's no particular improvement in his performance, and you think there's a distinct possibility he will lose to Wilder, and there's marked improvements, right?
Sure, absolutely.
So then Carl's statement will be right.
Yeah, but if it's not, it will be wrong. So what I'm saying is that it's
open. My uncle. But the point is that he's saying that he believes, and we're being a bit pedantic here. He believes he's on the slide. He believes he's done, and a lot of people believe it as well. You've got Shane McGuigan talking about the mental capacity. There's no doubt that Anthony Joshua is a physical specimen.
Yeah.
And as it is with the direction of travel that we're on at this moment in time, Usyk, Jermaine Franklin, the direction of travel is loss. Win, right, with no one going, that was particularly wonderful. Now we need to see this, and if we don't see this, and he gets in against Wilder, and we see that again, then this will be a fair analysis, because Carl believes that he's done.
It will be a fair analysis if he loses those fights, but that's what I'm saying. We just got open for discussion.
Do you think he's been disrespectful?
I think he is, yeah.
Why? Is he not allowed to have an opinion?
He's allowed an opinion.
So
I just think it's a strong one.
Okay, so
I think it's too strong.
Okay, so having a strong opinion means being disrespectful, does it?
Yeah.
Why?
Because you can't say that's not being disrespectful. It's the wording of it.
But we've just agreed he's right, unless it changes.
I've not agreed he's right.
Yes, you have.
No, I haven't. I didn't agree he's right.
Yeah, unless it changes.
I just said, look, he's a 2-time world heavyweight champion, Olympic gold medalist, world silver medalist, changed the face of boxing, British boxing.
Just accepted.
The geezer's got legacy in my eyes already.
But you've just accepted that he won a title against a paper champion. You just accepted.
You're feeding me words.
You know you believe that as well. Don't try and keep your popularity up with the Joshua camp, right?
I'm not. By the way,
Carl is right to some extent. Does Anthony Joshua deserve respect? Yes. He's calling it as you see it.
Yeah.
Because there's too much of this in sports sometimes. If you say something that people don't like, it's either controversial or it's disrespectful, or it might just be bleeding honest. And if you can back it up, and then if you're wrong, you can climb down. There's nothing. And
if is a huge word, we have to see how this plays out.
Currently,
we have
the
to see
direction
how
of
this
travel,
plays out.
Carl Froch is probably right. Anthony Joshua's legacy is.
I'm not so sure.
Anthony Joshua's legacy is, on paper, he's a heavyweight world champion. In principle, he's not fought any of the big guys in the division, because he hasn't fought.
But he will.
He has fought Usyk, so let's pare back from that.
Yeah.
He hasn't fought Fury and he hasn't fought Wilder. In order to have a proper legacy,
you
need to beat everyone.
That determines his legacy.
Because otherwise, legacy gets thrown around.
I agree.
And so really, what we're talking about is that if he goes on and fights Fury and fights Wilder, his legacy will be one of a unique fighter that raised the bar for everybody else, that excelled in everything he did. If he doesn't win those fights, his legacy will be ultimately that he was a two-weight heavyweight, not a great, and that what he was great at doing was raising the financial landscape for boxing.
Yep. All right.
Is that fairer?
Yeah, absolutely. So
Right, so shut up then.
I'm not finished yet.
Okay.
I want to finish yet. So like Tyson Fury, if you look at Tyson Fury and his legacy,
Yes.
yeah, what would his legacy be remembered for right now?
Again, he's in the same space because Tyson Fury.
is.
I think Tyson Fury opened up the division for everybody else
Even though
by
he's
winning against Klitschko, and
Yeah.
a different Klitschko than the one that fought Anthony Joshua. And I know they'll say there's only 18 months in between the two. I think that Fury's got the same challenge. I think pound for pound, he's the best heavyweight we've got around. But he needs to fight these other guys.
Agreed.
But no one's accusing Fury of being gun shy. No one's accusing
No, no,
Fury
but
of
I'm
being
just-
psychologically
I'm just-
damaged.
no,
No
but
one's
what I'm
accusing
talking-
Fury of not being able to turn up in meaningful fights and trying to keep it out of the way, are they?
No, but what I'm talking about is legacies the legacies will only be cemented when they've all mixed it up, which they will be. So this is all if, buts and maybes at the moment.
Fine.
And
But if it stops now, if it stops now, the legacy cannot be that he's an all-time great.
No one
and
would
the
have a
argument,
legacy
And the
now.
argument about Tyson Fury would be, if you stop now, what a waste.
Yeah.
Because your legacy should have been the
Yeah.
greatest of all time,
Yeah.
potentially, or
Yeah.
in that debate, because you beat everybody in every
Agreed.
position.
Agreed.
Okay.
Yeah.
We've got some sort of accord. What we should start a conversation with is that we have a debate, we talk about it, and then we come around to the conclusion that I was right in the first place.
No. We'll
That's what we
agree
should
to
do.
disagree, maybe.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. That's it for episode 25 of Talk Boxing with Simon Jordan and Spencer Oliver. Don't forget to keep liking the videos, subscribing to the channel, leaving questions in the comment section below for the Q&A, and we'll see you next time out.